Welcome back to the second episode of our Alphaville podcast regarding the upcoming symphonic album called Eternally Yours. In this episode, I want to ask you about the song Around the Universe and what it means to you.
Well, Around the Universe is a song from our last regular studio album, Strange Attractor. And it's the story about a man who is waving at a starting aeroplane. And the aeroplane is a little bit like a cosmic plane, so it it goes outside, into the vast open, and maybe it returns, from its long journey. Um, one round or maybe several rounds around the universe. Um, and the man on the ground who's waving is actually me, and the man on the plane is actually your grandfather. So, I mean, it's a fictional situation, but Dad was a war pilot in the Second World War. When the war started, he was 18, and he never talked very much about that time. But from the few things that I learned from him about this time, it became really an unimaginable thing, to believe that an 18-year-old boy, be set right into a fighter plane, and then they're fighting for his life, killing other people, and the ridiculous situation at that time is that because we have another part of our family lives in London, and my uncle was also at the Royal Air Force at that time, so our auntie was saying, oh my God, they're going to kill each other, or whatever. So that was, I mean, one of the talks in our family at that time. That what I did not hear that from Dad, but from other people from our family. And by the end of the war, uh, um, your grandfather became a prisoner of war in an English prison camp, and it was actually uh, my uncle who saved him. After a couple of months, because the health situation in these prison camps was very bad. Many people died there, and so my father was lucky enough, to have this connection, and so my uncle saved him, and he could leave there. So that was happened somewhere in June, by the end of June or July, and at that date they met each other either in London or in Germany, in Bielefeld, and celebrated that moment. That they were still that they both survived the war, and with a bottle of scotch. So they got completely pissed by the end of the day, and and yeah, and I when my father died, I was I was thinking about his, this time, when he was a fighter pilot, and um, that he returned. And I thought maybe there's another chance for returning, or maybe I will go on the same journey and see him again, or so. So I think that was the basic idea behind the song when we wrote the song.
Wow. So, would you say that uh, Around the Universe is a metaphor for what happens after death?
Yeah,
Or
I mean, this is the biggest riddle, of our existence, and we still have no answers. We have just theories about it, and when you're confronted with the death of people that you love, you always hope that there's a chance, to see them again, or when you're thinking about your own life, and that it could be finished, once for all, just non-existent anymore. It's a frightening idea, So yeah, I think that's the start for every religion. Also, I'm not a great believer in religion, so
but
but I think they are very interesting because they're telling probably not very much about what we define as God, but they tell a lot about us. Something like when you're losing a person that you love, you hope to see him or her back one day, maybe when you're dying yourself, and that there's something after life. But I must admit that my hopes are not very high concerning that.
I know.
Save a prayer.
Actually, this is a song about solitude. You know, when we wrote this song, we were traveling quite a lot, and it was in the early days of Alphaville, and we were not used to this kind of situation. For instance, traveling, and it was always the thing with airport, hotel, venue, TV studio, wherever, then back to the hotel, then